Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fishing in the South Okanagan. I'm Robert, and today I'm doing a topwater video of my tackle that I use and techniques that I've used over the years. Now, topwater can be such fun times when fishing. It's all about the topwater strike, the explosion of the bass, nothing better. I can even remember one time when I basically was on Osceola and wasn't paying attention using a Topwater Popper, and all of a sudden the strike hit and it scared the crap out of me. Like, I literally felt like I had a damn heart attack. It was awesome. Okay, so let's get right into it, and I'm going to break down of what I use, how to use it, and so forth. So basically we're going to start with Buzzbaits. Now, Buzzbaits are basically your topwater noisemakers when using topwater, like so. You got one there, and then you got like almost like a tripod of a buzzbait there. You have variations. You even have like a swinging arm, where if you catch a fish, it doesn't swing off whatsoever. And different ones where there's a buzzbait instead of a buzzbait. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool buzzbaits out there. Now, normally with these here, you would use a bait caster. You fire it out there, and once it hits the water, you get your rod tip up as best as you can, and as it's coming closer towards you, point your rod tip down, and that'll bring in the rest of the buzzbait without having it sinking into the water, because these things do not float whatsoever. The great thing with these here as well, you can use trailers. Like, for example, I have a little guy that I use for pond fishing, and that there is a 2.8 Kitech perch, I believe, perch or sungill. And they come in various sizes, and you pop it on there, and just added presentation to the actual bait itself. You can also, another good idea, if you don't use the baits, you could also put a trailer hook on there as well, just in case there's short strikes and they're nipping at the skirt and you just want to catch that fish. The other thing is color. Now, typically you want a, if it's like blue skies like this, basically you can use a chartreuse, like natural colors, and when it's low light, then get into black and blue, chartreuse and white, and then when it's even nice, you can pretty much use the white skirts, and it's all about the reaction strike too. So moving on is my actual topwater that floats. Like, there's the buzzbaits where they don't float, and then there's the actual topwater where it does float. So here I'll basically bring you down. So these right here are basically the topwater that floats. Move those aside. When I first heard about topwater was through Dave Mercer, and he was actually using one of these. And this is the live target walking frog. And I was so new, so green to topwater, couldn't understand how to do it, and I was getting so frustrated. But what I did was, get out there, keep on trying, and never stop. Basically, and YouTube helped us along the way too. So with these here, now these are different than, I'll show those in a minute. So basically, these right here are your walking the dog type baits. With these here, you cast it out as far as you can, and once it hits the water, then it's walking the dog, zigzag formation. And it's basically the way I see it as you're working a jerkbait on topwater. So you always want to slacken the line and keep the cadence going, and then with the odd stop here and there, which will indicate some strikes. Now, if they're not hitting the big ones, then downsize. Like for these, this one right here is the Hedon Spook Junior Torpedo. These here have the blades on the back of them, and with this here, you fire it out and let the. I always, when I'm doing the top water, I always like to do let it hit when it hits the water. Let the rings just dissipate. Sometimes you get your strikes on that little when it hits the water and the rings go away. So if the rings are pretty much all gone, then you can start this right here. You bring it down to a motion like this, and as you go, and basically the blades here are basically making a bubble trail. And what that does is it calls the fish from a distance, and having the bass follow that bubble trail of where the heck that lure was, and hopefully they can get an easy meal. Now with this here as well, you have blades at both ends, and some also you'll see that you'll have a bit of a flash of a feather hook at the back. Once same thing with the torpedoes, you fire it out, let the rings dissipate, and just in a downward motion, just work. And I normally with these here always fish it on a spinning reel. For the Buzzbaits, as I mentioned, baitcaster, and then the Whopper Poppers, which I have here, I also use in a baitcaster. So with these here, basically, as I mentioned, down, 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 and like you want to have like a little bit of a slack in the line. So you down and let it go one way, down, you go the other way, and back and forth, back and forth. One thing to look into and get into is, if you can see right there, is a swivel snap. Now that is a must-add fast-at snap, and what that allows me to do for a couple reasons is, one, changes the blade very quickly, and two, it helps having a loop in the lure, so it's basically easier to walk and glide across the water. Now on to these guys. Now I'm going to do the poppers first. So these right here. Now I absolutely love Topwater Poppers. It is so much fun to fish. And how I start is use a medium to, what is this one? Let's see here. Get off. So this here is a medium extra fast. So, and then it has just a little bit of extra bend into the rod itself. And you can use a medium to a medium extra fast just to be able to pop. And basically with these here is to cup the water and make a big splash, and we'll give a little bit of a bubble trail too. So basically, again, I usually go with this one because it is matching the hatch. That's another thing that I forgot to mention until now, is match your hatch. Here in Skaha we have bluegill and we have perch. We don't have shad whatsoever. So again, match the hatch. It has the easy, and also when it's a low light as well, these right here help. Is basically the orange in the cup is easy to see, and identifying whereabouts your lure is if you look away for a couple seconds and you lose focus. So you fire these out and you pretty much let the rings dissipate. And once that happens, sometimes you get the ignition to have bass attack it right away. They'll swipe at it, and usually what you do is when you have a strike is hesitate your hook set. And what I mean by that is basically you count to 3 or wait for the line to tighten up. And when that happens, you'll basically able to bring in that fish. Now, with this here, let's see, fire it out, let the rings dissipate, and then again, it's a downward motion. And then a pop, and then let the rings dissipate. Just wait. And then if nothing happens, just do it again, and usually they'll hit it right away. And it's so much fun to see it. Oh, it's such a blast. And then when I'm goofing off, you fire back out, and usually you can do a faster retreatance if you wanted to. I don't. I've never really had any luck doing it really fast. Usually I just pop, and as I'm popping, pop, and then I like a reel, let it sit, and because I'm reeling in that slack, because you don't really want the slack to be in the popper. You want the strike down and let it sit. And usually that is absolute dynamite. Another thing I do is when I goof off, usually I'm goofing off at Skaha Marina, over by the main boat launch. I don't go on the dock itself, and I go off to the side where they more like beach the boats. And if no one's there and you're not bugging anyone else, just fire it out to that corner, and you just let the rings dissipate, and then you pop it. And usually you get the little guys, but still it's fishing and it's fun. And what I do normally is I downsize. Now these are so much fun. This here is the Rapala Ultra Light, and I made that hook myself. And it's always nice to have that little feather hooked on the end. And then this here is the Rebel Cricket Popper Popper. Sorry, Rebel Cricket Hopper Popper. That's a tongue twister in itself. And again, I went out and made my own hook. So yeah, with this here, it is so much fun, and they go after white on rice. It is so much fun. Another thing you can use these little guys here for is bluegill. Like if you're in an area where, like for example, in Solano, there's lots of bluegill in there. You fire it out, and usually when they're doing their business of spawning, you see them flying around a little circle. That's a little spot. You fire it up there, and they hit anything that hits because they want that gone. They don't want it there. That's their spot. Leave them alone. To this little lure, it is so much fun, my friends. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Okay. Oh, and one more thing. You also get them in the shiny. This one here is a Rebel as well. And I also added a striker hook. Now, with this one here, the red basically just gives it more of a striking target for bass to hit. If you didn't have any, like if you just had a single hook like that, chances are it would just, usually you get them here, sometimes you get them here. It all depends of whereabouts they hit and where you give them the target to hit. So, okay, so now moving on to what is basically essential of the soft plastics of topwater. And what I mean by that is the hollow body little creatures. Like you got your live target mouse. Scared the crap out of my mom when I first picked this up when I went home in Alberta. I'm like, hey mom, check this out. Threw this on. Oh boy, did she jump. And then you got the frogs with the short tail, or short strands. And basically these here are the hollow body buzzbaits. You fire it out and all you do is reel. And you don't have, and again, you can have it down, you can have it up of your rod tip, and you just reel it in. And they absolutely unload on them. These things are also weedless, I forgot to mention. The rest of these buzz baits, you can, if it's heavy vegetation, I would advise against it. I would probably go for something like this. If it's sparse vegetation, then yeah, by all means, go ahead. Buzz baits are almost like the topwater spinner bait, if you will. So yeah, and now back to, like, I have so many, guys, it's not even funny. Like, basically that's what you have. So, and then here's a fun little critter right here. That there is the Mullick's Super Natto Beetle. And it has, this is its little, the baby, and this is its big brother. So, and they come in different colors. This here was the first one when I first saw it, and haven't had any much luck on it just yet. I have seen pictures of them actually of largemouth just annihilating them. And with this one here, you fire it out, and the cuppers here, you know, walk it back and forth, and just like so. And they apparently annihilate them. And then this here is the beige with black red flick. And then you get the ones with the topwater frogs with the cups. So basically these here you can walk the dog with, you can pop them, bring them over vegetation, lily pads, and they go absolutely nuts with them. Pardon me. Another trick that I do with is if you are able to get the leech, what is it, natural colored leeches, and basically in the Berkeley sauce, what I tend to do is break off one another and into half and put it on the back here. And basically what that does is put scent on the actual bait itself, and that helps the bass hold on to it just a little bit longer. And again, with these here, wait for this, like pretty much hesitate when you set the hook, because if you do it right away, like set the hook, chances are you'll have it flying out of the bass's mouth, and you'll probably be missing a fish of a lifetime. So, and like as I mentioned, you know, they're hollow body. These also have the little circles of where the hook comes out, and chances are you'll get the odd water, so just, you know, that, and it just squirts it off the backside. Then you have the actual frog itself. White on the bottom, top on the frog on there. Some like to use white on the top where it's easy for them to see. Whereas for myself, I'm thinking natural. So again, you know, with this one here, since it's so light, I would probably do it on, I have a medium heavy spinning reel or rod setup, and fire it out as best I can. And basically, when it comes to any of my of the, you know, hollow bodies, I really don't use a bait caster, just for the simple fact that I don't want to have a backlash, and I have like heavy braid on the spinning reel itself. It's just for preference. Normally you'd see on fishing shows that they'd be using a bait caster with very light tackle, and it blows my mind of how they're casting it out. Basically because they have it set to way that they like it, where they don't have backlashes. I just like the simplicity of having the actual non-backlashes whatsoever. That's why I use the spinning gear. So, and then, after, you know what? Hang on a sec. I'm going to grab my rod and show you what I mean. Okay, so that there is the setup that I was talking about. I have a Fluger President, I believe. No, Patriarch, sorry, Patriarch. On a medium heavy 5 foot, oh, 6 foot rod, and it's a Shimano Convergence. Now the reason I got so short of a and so heavy of a rod is I also use this for skipping jigs and stuff. I have not got around to using a bait caster for skipping, and I figure, you know, start off with this and then progress. Well, that's a different story. So yeah, I like with this here, and I have the Live Target mouse. Basically, there's some oxbows around town in Penticton, and I've caught a monster of a fish of largemouth, and all I did was, you know, cast it out, and then I held my rod tip up, and I was jigging, and as I was doing that, it was walking back and forth, and I was, you know, as you're jigging, you're popping, you're bringing in the slack, back and forth, and swoosh. And I'm like, oh, okay. Brought it in, and the thing was just a monster of a largemouth. Oh my goodness, I didn't think there was anything that big in that little oxbow. So, yeah, I actually, and this Fluger Patriot is so light, it is so sweet, and I got a good deal on this too when Wholesale Sports was almost going out of business. So, yeah. Now we move on to the lost my train of thought. Whopper Poppers, there we go. So with the Whopper Poppers, they have been so fun fishing, and I am an absolute fan. So when I first got the Whopper Poppers, I went out and this was my first one here, and that is the Whopper Popper 90, and that one there has caught me quite a bit of fish. So, and then I upgraded. There is of sizes. There's the Whopper Popper 130, then there's a 90, oh sorry, 130, 110, 90, and then 75. And I just happen to have everything but the 130. So that one there is the, they're both made by River to Sea, I forgot to mention. That one there is the 110. This is the 90. And then when the 75s came out, I was like, oh sweet, that is so awesome. And this right here. So basically these here are the Topwater Buzzbaits. As you can see, the tail moves. So you fire it out, let the water hit, when it hits the water, let the rings dissipate, like of any other topwater that I use, other than the Buzzbait. The Buzzbait is underneath the surface. So with these ones here, you know, you let the water dissipate and just, you know, rings go away, and then you just reel it in, and it just brings the tail spinning, and it makes a little plop, 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 and then usually you just hit it and whoosh. It's so much fun though, so much fun. Another thing with these here, you can also walk the dog with them. I've seen guys that I fished with, you know, doing the cadence as I mentioned before, and haven't seen any strikes, but I'm sure it works just as well. Okay. Let's see, am I missing anything? No. So, usually what I do with my bait caster, reel, and this is the other 75 of the color. This one right here, I forgot to mention the colors. So, my bad. These two here are electric bluegill. To me, they actually look like a fluorescent yellow perch. I've tried this one last season, I think, and didn't have much luck with it. Just because when I was on my Facebook group that I belong to of the Whopper Poppers, everything Topwater, go check them out. Really good guys in there. Basically, they were saying that the profile isn't long enough, and like when you have like this one or this one, you know, you have the body for them to actually track. Whereas this one, it's not as much. Why? I have no idea, but basically bass need more of a body to figure out, okay, that's a bass, and if it's so small and it goes quick, and you're like, where the heck did it go? And usually they don't usually strike. So this here for the rod system, this is the Rapala. Yeah, Rapala TS2 Topwater and Buzzbait, 6'3" in length, and it is a medium heavy action. So with this, I normally fish Buzzbaits or the Whopper Poppers, and pretty much the rest of it is the spinning reel. Pardon me. So before the light is gone, I'm going to actually show you what I mean when I use my topwaters. So let's get at it. So I'm going to show you it with the Topwater Popper, and hopefully we can maybe get some strikes. But they just put this new dock in, which I'm very happy that they did that, because the dock here before was absolutely trash, and it was not the greatest. Where did I put that little guy? Where'd you go? Oh, here it is. Okay, let's pop that in. Oh, you turkey. Don't do that. Oh, one very important tip I forgot to mention is when you're using the line, I normally, for my bait casting, or my, sorry, not bait casting, my spinning reels, I have braid, and then I have like a 10-pound mono, because mono floats, fluoro doesn't, and braid floats but has no give. Whereas fluoro has a little bit of give, mono has the most give, and it also floats, and it helps bring it because if you have fluoro, it sinks and you won't get as much grade of action as you want to. Now, when you're using a topwater, the good time of the season to use it is early spring to when it warms up. And normally most people would use topwater first thing in the morning and pretty much like after dinner kind of thing, when the sun's going down. Technically that is true. I have also found that using it in the heat of the sun and just throw it into like shady areas, like where the trees casting a shade, and pop it through, and usually they bite. So you can pretty much use them any time of the day, but normally guys would say through the morning and through the night. Okay, so let's show you guys how it is done. Okay. Okay.
I really want to jump. It's so hard for me not
now the rings are going and they're dissipating, and you pretty much want the water to be calm. This has a little bit of a ripple to it, but you basically want clear glass and no ring, or basically no ripples whatsoever. It's easier, and it's easy for the bass to see the actual lure itself. So normally, as I mentioned, downward motion, but since we're on the bank, I usually give it a top pop. You can, if you're on the bank, give it a top pop, but if you have clearance, then give a downward motion. So you just give it a pop and let the rings dissipate. Nothing there. Again. Oh, was that something?
I see it. Wait, somebody floats up in water? It's not. No, this is more like water. This is like the boat area to like gas. It's not that bad actually. But then when you get out, yeah. I'm going back in. Actually warm.
So yeah, that's basically how it's done. It is so much fun to. You can even have your kids use this, and it's the only thing you probably have to worry about is the trebles. The trebles will probably be the most troublesome because they're exposed. But as long as that you watch them and you know what they're doing, then it should be no problem.
You guys are going in? Who's going in? Me. On that end? Me too then. I'm going in.
So now, show you how the Whopper Popper works. Take this off. Technically difficulties here, folks. Just give me a second.
What are you filming?
So basically, you fix this. And reel up. Cast it out. And you can let the rings dissipate, basically. And you just start reeling. And as it's doing, you hear the plop, 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 plop. Now, when you're using the Waffle Popper, it is great for water like this. When there's a little bit of a wave to it, if you will. So basically with this, as you can see, the water's just a tad bit rough. And this is great for it because you're basically you're making noise for the bass to track and be able to fish. Cast it out. This, I would think, was another easy one if you put this on a spinning reel for kids and just cast. Because basically, you just want to either let it sit or cast and reel. So that's that one. And then basically with the actual buzzbait, as I mentioned, you would use the same system. Cast it out, and as you're going, actually, you know what? I'll use this as an example. So you put on the Topwater Buzzbait and cast it out.
I got 4.
And once it hits the water, you bring your rod tip up, and you keep your eye on it at all times. As it's going, you bring the rod tip down itself.